Hey everyone, my name's Felix. I've been playing Ultimate for 18 years in Brighton in the UK. I've had stints in Clapham and in GB and GB Masters at World Beach last year. I've coached for 16 years, including coaching the GB Under 23 2015 team. And 6 years ago I discovered, and since then I've been developing something called Hex Offence. For years Ultimate's been played in the same style, which is very stop-start. So you set up your formation, and then you make a cut and you have a big yard gaining pass, okay, and then you set up the next stack and then you have another yard gaining pass. Or if that pass doesn't work out, then you look for your reset. Space has been looked at in a very static kind of way, where this is the active space and this is the inactive space. It's defined before the point starts, it's defined by the structure, by the formation itself. And this style has been played, across the world. This is kind of like what Ultimate looks like with almost every team, almost every elite team especially. But there's a few things in the history of the sport that's been encouraging this style of play. So number one, the fact that every elite team in the last 15 years has pretty much been playing this kind of style. Okay, so it's very difficult to then change and introduce something new because it's like untested. So you just stick to what you know and you just do what's been done before, basically. Number two, there's a stall count of 10 seconds, which is loads of time, and it's easily enough time for you to catch the disc, look downfield for a big yard gaining pass, see whether it's on or not. Alright, people get set up and then they cut. Is that on or not? And then look at your reset if it's not on. Like 10 seconds is a long amount of time for you to be able to do all that stuff. Number three, this style is very similar to another sport which is huge in the country that Ultimate was invented and developed in, American football. I don't know if you're familiar with the rules of American football, but you basically get 4 downs, which are after you make a pass, the person catches it, and then if they get a tackle, they go to the ground. Okay, and then you're allowed to then set up. It's like a timeout. You're allowed to set up your next play, and then you have another chance, right? And you get 3 more chances. So you get 4 chances at this, or you kind of run it in to the end zone, which is kind of a bit harder. Therefore, it makes a lot of sense in American football that you have your formations, you have your setups, you have your set plays, because you get four chances to make these big passes, gain all the yards you can before scoring a goal. You want to gain maximum number of yards on each pass. So it makes sense that American football strategy influenced the strategy in Ultimate, especially in its formative years, and particularly because, number 4, in the past, players haven't had the same kind of catching and throwing skills. There hasn't been a focus on technique. There weren't really coaches back when Ultimate was developing, so everyone developed their own different styles, like in terms of technique, and every pass had a higher percentage of turnover. Okay, so it made sense that you wanted to limit the number of passes that you make before you get the disc to the end zone. So therefore it made sense to adopt the kind of strategies that you see in American football, where there's a big focus on maximizing the number of yards per pass. If Ultimate was developed in Europe or South America, we probably would have seen a different style take precedence, which is more focused upon longer possessions, which has more passes involved before you get to the end zone. And elements of things like Spain's Tiki-Taka and Holland's Total Football would be seen in teams' individual styles. So what is Hex Offence? Well, what I'm basically saying is that there's a better way. Hex Offence rides on the idea that keeping the disc moving is of higher value than gaining yards on each pass. So therefore training is focused around how to keep the disc moving. Yeah, where to look after you catch the disc in order to find the open pass. Trying to get the disc back in your hands after you make a pass. Looking back to the thrower after you catch a pass. And as a team, maintaining a shape which supports fluid rhythmic movement of the disc, which means that if the movement stops at any point, if flow stops, then you're all set up in a way which is going to maximize the options and make it easy as possible to reinitiate the flow. So there are 3 main elements to any offense. You have structure, you've got movement, and you've got technique. Okay, and the way that Ultimate's been played up till now, there's been a huge amount of focus on structure. Okay, basically formations, yeah, which the way that the stacks have worked have been like, okay, well, let's define where the active space is, let's define where the inactive space is, okay? And then the movement has kind of developed based upon that. So the most extreme structure on the current kind of style of Ultimate is side stack, okay? And the movement in side stack is you have these big cuts in the active space. So people learn the technique of how to make big fakes, big cuts, and then how the movement of the disc works with that. So you catch the disc, you turn, you look downfield, okay, and then someone hopefully has timed their cut to kind of work off that. So the movement in an offense is heavily defined by the structure of that offense. And I'm saying that vertical, horizontal, side stack they all basically rely on the same kind of movement, okay? They all encourage the same kind of movement, all right? So then technique is connected to the movement, all right? So the movement relies heavily on the structures, and then when you figure out how that movement kind of works, you develop your techniques to then fit into that movement, all right? So it's all interlinked. So learning Hex Offence doesn't entail just learning a new formation, right? A new shape, a new setup. It doesn't just entail learning how to keep the disc moving, you know, practicing give-go moves. And it doesn't just entail learning a new kind of throwing and catching technique, which sustains that. You have to have elements of all these three in order for it to work nicely. So what the Hex Clinic is basically a masterclass in these elements, all right? What you should do when you catch the disc, okay? How you should initiate flow, how you should keep the flow going, all right? How you should maintain shape as a team to maximize the options, all right? I have a bunch of drills and a bunch of theory stuff to get you understanding this and get you doing this, practicing this. By the end of the day, then you should be able to play in a nice fluid style. And we also learn about technique, okay, which is a lot focused on balance, all right? And balance is something true of the structure and the movement as well, yeah, keeping it all balanced. I see vert and side stack obviously being the massive kind of imbalance, all right, on the field. Whereas Hex is a balance. You've got everyone spread across the field in the most even way where everyone's interconnected. Okay, it's like a balanced network. All right, and simply that translates into technique. Whereas when you have the disc in your hands, you don't want to be stepping out really wide. You actually want to be kind of having your weight over your pivot foot in a balanced way where you can accelerate in any direction possible. Okay, a lot of elements of Hex are all about freedom. All right, if you start from a balanced position, you have the freedom to go anywhere you want and do anything. And everything about the offense supports and encourages this and helps it all work together. And now I can talk about defense, because when defense sets up against Hex, whatever they give you, you can take. Okay, because Hex isn't looking to do anything in particular, then the defense will do something, trying to stop something, and it's okay for them to stop that because you can do something else which is just as effective. So I've got loads of thoughts about defense, and one of the days of the Hex clinics is focused on defense. Basically, there's no teamwork at the moment in defense, all right? Well, there's very basic teamwork in that you've got force one way and you've got everybody kind of marking on the open side, okay? But other than that, when you're on the field, you're pretty much alone, yeah? You're marking your person. You're alone, you know? You're not talking to your team very much. Like, occasionally you might shout with the force no break or whatever, and there's occasional switches, all right? But for 90% of the time, 95% of the time, you're alone on the field, even though you have 6 teammates around you. So there's a defense called Felix Defence, all right, which has some elements of Hex in that it has a balanced view of the field, but really a lot of focus on that is about teamwork. It's about punishing the weaknesses of offenses, which at the moment aren't really recognized as weaknesses. So one of the days we're going through the theory of these things, we're developing ideas on how you can sandwich, like around a stack, how you can then adjust that after people start cutting, when to switch, how to switch. Okay, and we're looking into the details of how this kind of advanced teamwork defense can work. I've been in a position where I've been able to see quite a lot of Dutch teams playing this year, mainly through and the under-20 women's team. Okay, I saw the under-20 women's team in Tom's tourney, and you're playing with great flow, maybe against slightly looser defense, because then when you played against Canada at Worlds, then it was kind of tighter D. You struggled to get the shorter passes off. Okay. And then you had to rely on the long throws, and every score that you had was either very short field because you got a turnover near their end zone, or it was like 2 long passes for the score. Okay, and same with Fruit. I got to film your last game at Worlds, and I watched a couple of your other games, and it's kind of one-dimensional, right? You're very good at throwing it long, you're very good at catching it, and that's going to work against teams who aren't as good physically as you, or can't read the disc as well, or just can't jump as high, all right? That's going to work up to a point. But then when you come up against the top elite teams, then that stops working, okay? And you need another dimension. You need another 2 dimensions, all right, to that game, all right? And Hex can bring you that. And what I'm saying is that there's a better way, all right? And it's not a way that the American teams know, because they've always been able to physically outmatch their opponents, all right? So this is something that you can learn, and it can make you world dominant, I believe. I'm running a Hex clinic in Amsterdam on the 29th and 30th of September. Okay, it'll involve a bit of classroom session where we go over things on a video screen. we'll then go out and do some drills, do some training games, okay, play some Ultimate, and then we'll come in, hopefully we'll get it set up so we can analyze video in a break, okay, and then we'll go out and play some more Ultimate, okay, and then probably analyze video from that afterwards, all right, and it's going to be a 2-day thing. First day is going to be defense, second day is going to be offense, all right. It should be really beneficial to you guys. I hope to see as many of you there as possible. Sign up details are just below this video, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And I apologise for being quite rude and not introducing my cat Rue, who you've probably been paying more attention to than me in this video.